Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Ostiarius, but you can call me Osti, and welcome back for the second day of the final trial. I do not know where this is going, but we'll see. I have a lot of ideas, but I generally like every single idea I can have comes with like 2 or 3. It could be this, it could be that. I still do think this is a hit piece. Let me just fix this. Why is it like this? I do think this could just be a hit piece, and Kazuma is innocent. This is this. Can we do it? Another something in that case. Probably broke during the incident. There is a small part on the watch, on the scene. Can I now examine it? The crown, I believe. I feel I have a monarch. If by monarch you mean a pocket watch, I'm quite sure. Okay, so we are acknowledging that this is from a pocket watch. Why are they not making the connection? Can I do it now? What do you think, Mr. Zato? Really, I was just thinking precisely the same thing. We're about to see the little round component. It's actually part of Greg's unbroken watch. Really, I was just thinking precisely that. Okay, so it does work when we click enough. A perfect fit, I knew it. Alright, perhaps you knew it. I'll make note of the information. A small machine part Mr. Sholmes found on the Jigoku cabin on SS Groove. It's now clear that it's the missing crown of Spectre Gregson's pocket watch. Okay, so this is the proof we have that he was in the ship. We don't have anything from this. Following from Parduke, all crew members are required to assemble on the main deck at 10 p.m. in order to receive evacuation procedures. The drill will take 20 minutes. Crew to resume duties as soon as the drill is over. So this is probably something to time where someone is or something. If we examine the blade, the broken blade, can we make the connection now with the katana? Have you seen the huge gash, the metal chest thing poking out? And then we click on the katana again. Open it, please. And then we click here again. No. Is this going to be updated? No. Okay, so it's not updated, so we cannot do the testing yet. I wonder why. Are we going to find out that this is actually not? This is why we cannot make the connection, because we're gonna find out that the broken piece of the tip is not that one. Would go like here. Maybe. I don't. Does it fit? Would this even work? Because it doesn't penetrate until the last. This kind of makes you think it went like boom, but it's stuck here. Did it broke this part off, but then the rest of the katana continued going and made a slash? And this is just like a bruise? The passport. Why is this still in the inventory? So much thing to think about it. I do think they are not going to introduce new characters at this point in the story. Okay, that was enough time thinking. Let me just recharge my water. And we can begin. Before we begin today proceeding, I have a brief announcement. As with the closed trial 10 years ago, some astounding facts have come to light in these proceedings. The revelation that the well-known Reaper is actually an organization illegally executing its own brand of justice, and the discovery that a respectable yard inspector was at the heart until he himself perished in an assassination plot. Well, I say to all members of the judiciary here present on this occasion that we will stop at nothing to uncover the whole truth behind these disturbing findings. Council, you will undertake this trial with the resolve to pursue the truth to the bitter end. Why are you giving this speech? I guess just to get brownie points with the gallery. Resolve, yes, that is my intention. I feel like we have seen that this word resolve more than we should. My lord, if I may inquire, the defendant may speak. On what grounds is Kazuma Asogi permitted to continue in his role as a prosecutor? Great question. He has admitted to colluding with the victim in a plot to assassinate an innocent man. He shouldn't be enjoying the privilege of freedom, let alone be leading the prosecution. I submitted a written petition to Lord Strongheart. Request that judgment of my transgressions be delayed by 1 day. You did what? In today's proceeding, I intend to expose everything. Let me just work that. My whole life for the last 10 years has all been leading up to this 1 day. Okay, so... Okay, let's talk about the mission for a second. Because I don't believe you're an assassin. I do not think you're an assassin. Maybe Jigoku put you as an assassin and you said yes as a lie. Your objective is to, above all else, to find out that your father is innocent. That's all you want. So that's your mission coming here. Maybe the assassination plot was something you used it with as a deal with Jigoku to be able to come here, but I don't think you were ever planning to assassinate anyone. You are too much of a good guy to do that. Maybe that is a mission, but yeah, it's two different missions. Kazuma, whatever the outcome of this trial, I give my word that I will accept whatever punishment is deemed appropriate, however severe. I suggest you prepare yourselves for the same. Reaper, who are you pointing at? Kazuma is bristling with hostility today. I get the distinct impression that we are heading into a very dangerous territory. Is that really even Kazuma-sama standing before us? As an extreme exception to normal practice, I have granted this prosecution's request. The defense finds this acceptable, I presume? No, give me anyone. Give me anyone. He's too competent, okay? Yunosuke, come on. In that case, in the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session again. If you can only be here until tomorrow... Delay by 1 day. If you can only be here today. Is today the end of the trial? I feel like we need at least one more investigation. That is a bunch of... But what would we even investigate? How are we going to have an entire trial about Jigoku, Strongheart, the killing of Gregson, identity of the Reaper, and the entire case of 10 years ago? That is so much stuff still. And yeah, with the whole Baskerville stuff, that is still so much. We resume the close of the hearings of Barak van Zix. The defense is ready, my lord. The prosecution is more than ready. Very well then. This preamble has taken long enough. Prosecutor Asuki, begin. As you wish, my lord. The prosecution calls the first witness to the stand. Bring Seshiro Jigoku into the courtroom. Alas, we have reached the final battle. Okay, so this is the final courtroom. There is not gonna be another investigation after it. Oh god, that is so much. He's putting literally everything on the line now in order to get to the truth. Come on, Ryunosuke. It's time for that steadily resolve, because this is going to test it to the limit. Welcome to the next 8 hours of your life. This is going to be a gigantic trial. Witness, state your name and occupation for the court. So it was you who issued this, was it? And when did he issue this? Just Poema, I did what was necessary. When did you do this? Well, look what the young man has become. I didn't think I was the day you would take that tone with me, I must say. The way he was unsure his response are pertinent to the question asked. Are you going to... We are going to destroy you and then you are going to just bring Strongheart down with you? My name is Seshiro Jigoku, a Supreme Court judge from the Empire of Japan. 16 years ago, this man came to London as a visiting student. 6 years later, he returned to Japan. As well as presiding over the Supreme Court, he is also currently Japan Minister of Foreign Affairs. Oh, how is the Japanese government okay with this? I guess because it's just a witness, they don't know we are going to point the gun to his head. I'm of course fully aware of Mr. Jigoku and his preeminent role. I invited him personally to the International Forensic Science Symposium as a representative of his country. I heard he also played a key role in the conclusion of the Anglo-Japanese Treaty of Friendship and Navigation. It was a great honor to be involved in the negotiations. I put my all into that treaty. Judge Jigoku, I must ask... Well, I never. Fancy the young murdering student turning up here of all places. You're calling me murdering students? Come on, Jigoku! You acquainted me yourself, and now I'm a practicing defense lawyer. We met you in the hotel, come on! Yes, and full of self-importance like our friend across the courtroom, I see. You came here to learn by invitation of the International Forensic Science Symposium. But then, without informing anyone of our plans, you took a flight to France. Sorry, took flight. I have to object to that turn of phrase. Then explain yourself, what exactly were the circumstances? Well, I was somewhat expecting this, I'm sorry to say. I decline to comment. You know all the laws, you know your rights, and that's the worst thing that could happen to us. And he's absolutely gonna have some sort of diplomatic immunity to some bullshit. Leaving the country prematurely when I was an invited guest may be questionable etiquette, but my decision is unrelated to this case. I cannot be bound to testify. Unrelated, you say? I appreciate that a respected police officer has been killed. For which I offer my condolences. However, being an alien, I'm obviously never met the man, nor do I know the first thing about him. As such, I'm in no position to testify. Is it as simple as that? So, you would run from all this? I beg your pardon, female. This case is more far-reaching than the murder of Inspector Gregson. It has tied to another murder, a case which was tried in Japan almost a year ago now. A year ago in Japan, the murder of Dr. John H. Wilson, you mean? That's right, and you, Judge Jigoku, are at the heart of both cases. So is you, Ryunosuke, I mean one of them. The defense has evidence to prove it. Well, Ryunosuke, I see from the look in your eyes that you are resolved to carry this through to the very end. And before I forget... Okay. Let's see your evidence then. What proof do you have that Seiichiro Jigoku is involved in this case?
Take that!
What on earth is that? This piece of evidence is a welcome present to the courtroom with the compliments of the defense. You have a poor grasp of British court etiquette, counsel. That's the extent of your resolve. You disappoint me. Really, it's not that. Okay. Oh, okay, you want me to use the telegram? Right? Really? This early? I guess because it is the one that only connects to Shin and Wilson, and I'm thinking of connecting to Gregson. Okay.
Take that!
This is a telegram detailing a communication sent between Britain and Japan approximately 1 year ago. A communication containing 4 names. K. Asogi. A. Shin. T. Gregson. J. Wilson. What the fuck are you doing? You little... Oh, if he's gonna break the table, I'm gonna enjoy that. Where did you get that? In Tokyo. From your office, Judge Jigoku. What? How on earth did you... What is this all about? Why is my name on that list? The list of 4 names follow a certain partner. T. Gregson, J. Wilson are the name of victims. K. Asogi and A. Shin are the name of assassins. No. A year ago in Tokyo, Dr. John H. Wilson's life was taken in a Western-style restaurant in the capital. The culprit was found to be a visiting student who went by the name of Giselle Brett, but her real name was Asa Shin, a professional killer sent on a mission to kill from Great Britain. Shin and her victim J. Wilson, and the murder of that just took place here in London was the counterpart of that crime. An assassin sent from Japan, also a visiting student, Kazuma Asogi, whose victim was the British Police Officer Inspector Tobias Gregson. K. Asogi and T. Gregson. One assassin from each country to kill a target residing in the other. What exactly is the defense suggesting? Strongheart is just like, how the fuck do you know so much? We just started the day. These 2 cases of murder, one took place in Britain and one in Japan, were masterminded by a pair of individuals from each country as a form of assassin exchange. We are really taking everything that Sholmes said at face value. And the telegram the defense has acquired is proof of this international contract to kill. What? Kazuma has no idea what the fuck is going on. The telegram was found in your office, Judge Jigoku. In other words, the mastermind in Japan was you. Judge Jigoku, what is this all about? And you, Kazuma, you lied. I never lied, my boyfriend. I never lied. During yesterday's proceedings, you acknowledged that you accepted that assassination mission. But the mark wasn't just Jigoku at all. It was T. Gregson, Detective Inspector of Scotland Yard, as shown by the name on the killing contract. Very impressed with you, Yonosuke. But actually, I didn't lie. The name of the target I was ordered to kill never passed my lips yesterday. The idea that Seiichiro Jigoku was a mark came entirely from you. You deliberately avoid saying a name. Yeah, he did. The defense claims that these 4 names indicate some sort of international assassin exchange. I'm sure I speak for all present when I say the very idea seems utterly absurd. Well, Mr. Jigoku, what do you have to say for yourself? We are just going forward we came into the courtroom with a diving kick in the head. I have never seen so much direct from the protagonist. His silence only goes to prove he's guilty. There's another very big important point that this new development brings to life. There is now a distinct possibility that the scene of the Inspector Gregson's actual murder was in the witness cabin aboard the SS Gruz. Strongheart is so disappointed in Jigoku. Judge Jigoku, you have to testify now. To refuse would put you in contempt of court. There is no need for quite such a vicious stare, young man. Very well then. As a parting gift to you all, I'll tell you everything I know. I love every single moment of Strongheart just in silence, like, bitch, what the fuck are you doing? It seems this Japanese gentleman has information that the court must hear about the alleged assassin exchange and the events of the night of the 31st of October. Present your formal testimony now. It does feel like we have like multiple cases mixing in one case. As you wish, my lord. Okay, where are we going? It's true that Kazuma Asogi was assigned the assassination mission 1 year ago now. Okay. So we are assuming that we are considering this a fact then. Kazuma, come on. The target was Inspector T. Gregson. That was the condition of the British study tour. However, in the end, something happened that meant the young man was unable to carry out his mission. On the evening in question, a member of the crew was on duty outside my cabin at all times. If there had been a shot fired, the crewman would have heard it, so clearly I cannot be involved. So, you admit it, as this communication suggests, there was an assassination exchange arrangement between Britain and Japan. Political endeavor at the highest level, not something I can discuss here. To use such a warped practice as foreign study to coerce somebody to commit crime. It's the most appalling thing I have ever heard. Appalling? Well, it is easy to judge. Pardon? Asogi have a reason for taking his sword to the British inspector, you see. What? Because Gregson was the one who created a false evidence that leads to his dad being sent to the gallows? Maybe? Which is why he accepted the mission in the first place. Isn't that right, Council? Kazuma-sama? Judge Jigoku, if you're the mastermind behind this operation in Japan, tell the court the identity of your counterpart in Britain. I'm not obliged to divulge that information. As I said yesterday, I have killed nobody, just changing the subject. I freely admit that I accepted the mission, but on the night the plan was to be executed, I backed out. In short, the assassination exchange the defense has identified is unrelated to the events of this case. That's weak, my dude. The crucial point is this. Your police inspector can't have perished aboard the steamship in Durkheim. Because he have been shot in the cabin, it's inconceivable that a member of the crew wouldn't have heard it. That's right. Gregson was killed after returning to London, in their room on Fresno Street. And the perpetrator of the perpetrator of the crime was the Reaper, Baroque von Zix. The prosecution accusations remained unchanged. To think that a seemingly innocent foreign exchange program was a facade for such Machiavellian dealing. Clearly, it's a plot only a government minister or a high-ranking judge such as the witness could hope to execute. Or me. Well, I think to recall it was someone on the British side who controlled everything. Shut the fuck up. It is not the place of this court to pursue this villainous assassination exchange plot. We are changing subject. We are only concerned with the tangible events pertaining to the murder of Inspector Gregson. Is the fence clear on that point, Council? You will not talk about this shit anymore. Yes, my lord. I'll keep that in mind as I cross-examine the witness. Okay, let's talk about the exchange to an assassination first.
Hold it!
A year ago, when Kazuma was still in Japan then. Correct. It wasn't a... Okay. Why did you help us in the courtroom? On the Jessaley Brett case on 1-1. Why did you help us? Why? You were aware of everything. Why? Correct. It was an examination center for applicants for the study tour. Sorry, it was an examination center for applicants for the study tour that I approached him. I will never forget it. I remember exactly what you said. You just came out and asked me forthright if I considered traveling to Britain on an assassination mission. Surely not. I thought it was a joke at first, of course, but then it was made clear to me that if I didn't accept it, I wouldn't be considered for the study tour. So you agreed to it just for that. I mean, I know how much you want to study in England, but assassination. The Empire of Japan have accepted a proposal from the British Empire at the time. An agreement to send a student from each country to the other to deepen cultural understanding and friendship. But behind the scenes, the chosen students were to be given assassination missions. I have no choice but to accept the proposal that originated from my British counterpart. Why? Why didn't you expose the plot there and then? Politics! Britain acknowledges no part in these alleged misbegotten dealings. I advise you not to make spurious allegations, Foreign Minister Jigoku. As a witness, I'm bound to tell the truth, my lord. Anyway, I picked Asugi and explained the details of the plan to him.
Hold it!
Why Kazuma? Why did you pick him as the assassin? Yeah, the British grabbed the actual killer. He was the most capable of all applicants, and in addition, I knew his desire to travel to Britain was very strong. In fact, it was almost more than a desire, it was his whole purpose in life. Yes, as his best friend, I can certainly attest to that. The way he threw himself into his study, the way he pursued becoming a qualified as a lawyer, it was ultimately from one single goal of being accepted on a study tour to Britain. And of course, we know the reason behind that. He was determined to find out for himself the truth about his father, Genshin Impact. There is nothing I wouldn't have done to get here, be that agreeing to assume the role of an assassin or betraying people's trust. Well, you certainly did a fine job of betraying mine, Asugi. But why was Inspector Gregson the target? No idea. Those were the orders from Britain. I was in no position to question them. You have no idea, really? I find that hard to believe. Oh, do you? I love how we are trying to establish a case and the three of them are just throwing shade at each other in secret in between every sentence. That Jigoku was once a visiting student here in Britain himself, of course. Perhaps he has some connection with Inspector Gregson from that time. The defense really ought to catch up. With what? Here. With the fact that the assassin exchange has absolutely nothing to do with the case being under scrutiny here. Yes, I have already admitted to recruiting Asugi. However, in the end, something happened that meant the young man was unable to carry his mission.
Hold it!
Yeah, a ballerina pushed him into a bed and he lost his conscience and became amnesia. I don't like this second case. I presume you're referring to the incident that occurred during Kazuma's passage to Britain in January? The awful tragedy took place on the steamship. Word arrived at the ministry some 2 weeks after the ship's departure from our shores. The visiting student have been killed, but his body have somehow gone missing in Hong Kong. The news was wired to me from a detective I placed on the ship to accompany the assassin. Obviously, Kazuma didn't actually die at all, but he did lose his memory, including all the details about his special mission. Did not consider dispatching another assassin at that point? That wasn't possible simply because that black-clad young student over there have already put himself forward as Asugi's replacement. and there was no way to stop him from reaching Britain. Ah, my hands were completely tied. So Mr. Show's strategy worked perfectly. He predicted everything that would happen. He assumed some stuff. Months later, my memory returned. But I never intended to go through with the assassination mission anyway. Oh, so you were playing me right from the outset, were you? Is that it? I still would be guilty of that crime than taking someone else's life. I was prepared to do whatever I have in order to get to myself here in Britain. The line of questioning have gone on long enough. Keep talking, no, let me keep going. All the court should be concerned about in the testimony given by the witness are the details relating to their relationship with Inspector Gregson and the victim's murder. In that case, as I have already made perfectly clear, I have no connection with the man or his death. And you have some means of substantiating this plea? On the evening in question, a member of the crew was on the duty outside the cabin.
Hold it!
The one you bribed, yes. Outside your cabin in the first-class area of the SS Gruz, you mean? Yes, that's right. Not least because there was a murder of a student passenger earlier in the year, I imagine. The liner operations have taken to posting a crewman outside every first-class cabin door. I can confirm the presence of the crewman guard myself. What do you mean? Because I accompanied Inspector Gregson to Dunkirk that night, I witnessed it with my own eyes. There was a well-built crewman standing guard directly in front of the door to the witness cabin. At that particular time, of course, I have gone to the ship dining room for dinner. The inspector and I asked the crewman to allow us in the cabin while we wait for Judge Jigoku's return. I suppose Inspector Gregson was there in his capacity as the Reaper. He was intending to take the witness' life. Exactly, as I have said numerous times now, I have no intentions of killing anyone. But the crewman let two potential assassins into the cabin he was supposed to be guarding. Not the most convincing of centuries, really. In truth, those were my thoughts too. But anyway, I stayed to talk to Inspector Gregson for a short while, and then I left him there and made my way off the ship alone. Was the guard still at the door when you went? Yes, he glared at me as I walked past. You see, that proves it. No? If there had been a shot fired, the crewman would have heard, so it clearly cannot be involved.
Hold it!
The crewman was standing directly outside their cabin door, you mean? That's right. A muscular man with a permanent grin expression on his face. He didn't once move from that spot. To be honest, I thought he was a miserable fellow. But as it happened, he is a vital witness now. There is no doubt that Gregson was killed by a gunshot. And it's inconceivable that a crewman standing just outside the cabin door wouldn't have heard that. Wait, what about the ship's enormous steel engines? The noise of them could draw out the sound of the gun being fired. Sadly, young judicial assistant, that won't wash. Did Sherlock never took a photo of the gun mark on the wall? No? Okay. You recall that my cabin was the first-class area of the ship, which is also, of course, the quietest. Ah! Don't imagine for a moment that it's anything like the storage where the judicial assistant go. I didn't mean... But a hole like that made by a bullet was found in your cabin. Okay, we are acknowledging, good. A hole like that was made by a bullet was found in your cabin, Judge Jigoku. That's compelling evidence that a gun was fired in there. What is that? A bullet hole? Oh, you're talking about what the detective uncovered in that wall yesterday, I presume? There was obviously a rotten panel eaten out by a woodworm. No doubt he didn't find an actual bullet. That's the hole in this argument. Sadly, I was unable to arrange for the crewmate to be brought back to Britain with me. But obviously, if a gun had been shot in my cabin on the night in question as the defense implies, I would have been arrested on the spot and would have never made to Britain in the first place. Very true, the witness logic is sound. No gunshot wound was heard from the witness cabin on the night in question. We must assume the witness is telling the truth. Heh, I'm glad you see sense, my lord. I know Kazuma already admitted to taking on this incredible assassination plot, but even so, hearing it confirmed by someone else is still a shock. It's unforgivable, using Kazuma-sama's feeling to manipulate him into agreeing to such a despicable plan. But I think Kazuma manipulated Jigoku too. He completely double-crossed him. Oh dear, it's hard not to see that as a stroke of brilliance on Kazuma's part. One way or another, Gregson ended up dead. I really think the murder must have happened aboard the steamship. You mean, Jigoku must be lying? I know I shouldn't let my emotions cloud my judgment, but you must destroy him, Mr. Naruhodo. Okay, so we have two things. We have this that proves that Gregson was there. We have this, which kinda can be used. Presented this, he couldn't hurry because he was not on duty because of the evacuation drill.
Objection!
Yes, as the court has heard, there was a crewman posted outside Judge Jigoku's cabin. However, we can be sure that, contrary to the witness claim, that the guard wasn't there at all times. What? I have here a notice of a particular... Okay, this is fun a little bit, because on the when we were doing this on before, it always felt like Kazuma was ahead of us because he knew shit. But this time, everything we are using is things that Shomu's investigated, and Kazuma was not prior to this investigation, so he has no idea what will actually happen. I have here a notice of a particular event that was scheduled to take place aboard the steamship on the 31. 31st? 31? 31. Where did you get that? It's evidence gathered by Mr. Herlock Sholmes. You were acquainted yesterday, if you remember. You were acquainted yesterday, if you remember. Herlock Sholmes again. Motherfucker, have Mikotoba tap dancing on me. According to this itinerary, after leaving the port of Dunkirk at exactly 10 p.m. for a period of 20 minutes. Our crewmen on the SS Gruz were together on deck for an evacuation drill. All crewmen were away from their posts, and during that 20-minute interval, of course, any gunshot emanating from their cabin would have been heard by no one. In summary, Judge Jigoku, you have ample opportunity to have committed the crime. You should have been a bit bigger. A 20-minute window of opportunity. That is an excellent find, Ryunosuke. But it amounts to nothing. Why? Because the witness clearly stated in his testimony that no instinct occurred. Oh shit, I didn't think of that. I didn't think when I said he killed him. He said, no, I didn't. Oh shit, that's a good point. He said he didn't. Unless you have some decisive evidence that can show his testimony to be false, your accusation is not more than conjecture. Could be true. Well, counsel? Inspector Gregson was killed in Judge Jigoku's cabin that night. I'm certain of it. Because the defense has evidence to prove it. You will present the evidence for the defense at once. The small component.
Take that!
Judge Jigoku, this was found in your cabin yesterday. What is that? The crown of a pocket watch. A pocket watch? If you observe, the victim's pocket watch, which we know he treasured, is missing precisely that part. It can't be. Moreover, actually, I want to check something. Okay, so the gunshot was like upwards. What is the photo with Gregson? Where is the gunshot? Where was he shot at? Just as close proximity, scorch marks, the bullet exited from behind, and then you have his pocket watch. But it's broken here. Maybe it just fell on the ground. And this was ruptured by the bullet grazing on it. I would have a bullet graze. And details. Moreover, this car is a perfect fit on the spiral protruding from the victim's watch. Now, the fact that it was retrieved from Judge Jigoku's cabin tells us that the victim's watch almost certainly broke there. In other words, the victim was killed on the 31 during the 20-minute evacuation drill. In the cabin occupied by you, Judge Jigoku. Well, you're razor sharp, aren't you, you young murderer? You're gonna keep calling me murderer.
Objection.
Expertly maneuvered, Yonosuke. And your argument sounds entirely plausible at first. But rather than this rather like this pocket watch, it's full of cracks. What? And I believe that Jigoku feels the same way, don't you? I was wrong to acquaint you earlier in the year. Holy shit! Holy shit! I should have just sent it to the gallons. If I have known it would result in anyone's having to listen to this drivel, I would have declared you guilty just to spare the word of our ridiculous bombasting. I think it's clear that the witness will have to give in further testimony. When you hear what actually happened in my cabin that night, you will notice the pitfall into which you have stumbled. Prior to the renewed testimony, I would like to clarify one point. The fact that this part of the victim watch was discovered in your cabin means that you acknowledge he was there, I presume? Yes, I do. Very well then. You may proceed to give your formal testimony about what exactly happened in your cabin aboard the ship on the evening of the 31st of October. Of course, as a man of the law, I have no intention of obstructing justice. Yeah, just sending assassins. I have a guest waiting for me when I return to my cabin after finishing my evening meal in the dining room. When I walked through the door, a mustachioed Englishman was there, foolishly waving a gun at me. I soon took care of him with a Ippon Seiyoi throw, though he couldn't wait to run away after that. I imagine his watch was broken when I threw him over my shoulder. It has nothing to do with murder. The inspector was clearly killed by having returned to Britain because his body was found in London. Ippon Seiyo, a common jiu-jitsu martial arts technique in my country. I was careful not to use it too much force, but the man's obviously landed too heavily on his watch to take. So, Ryunosuke Naruhodo, I imagine you can see the flaw in your logic now, can't you? What? The fact that the pocket watch was broken in the witness cabin? No, it proves the victim murder took place there. I have no doubt the inspector intended to kill me, but he didn't manage to pull the trigger. Yes, because he was merely a tactician, not a reaper hand of death. Well, the testimony appeared to make perfect sense as far as I can tell. You have a nice bow. Let me express my deep gratitude for your understanding, my lord. But if this testimony holds, Jigoku will be deemed to have no involvement in the case. Well, Counselor, I see no reason for wasting precious time here on the... Sorry, I really see no reason for wasting precious court time here on a cross-examination. Come on, Judge, come on, Chief Lord Justice, you're better than this. But my lord, the defense has a right to cross-examine, and I don't intend to squander that. You're an embarrassment to your countrymen, not knowing when you're beaten. In that case, proceed, Mr. Naruhodo. Okay, let's start by pressing everything.
Hold it!
Because the so-called guard posts at your cabin door have just let your killer pass, you mean? Let me just recheck the sentence. I have a guest waiting. Apparently, Gregson told the crewsman that he was a police inspector, which was true, of course. He wouldn't have his identification with him, though. He have his trench coat and mustache, not to mention a bag of chips. I imagine the crewman was convinced. But the man accompanying him would have 2 swords slung around his waist. You mean me? Who else? Yes, that is true. You would have hoped the sign of a few swords might have set off alarm bells in the guard's head. The point is, I left the cabin before its occupant returned, and I immediately disembarked the ship. Certainly, all I can tell you is that only the inspector was waiting for me when I arrived back at my cabin. There is so much bullshit in this trial, and you have to accept the bullshit. Because Lord Strongheart has the last word, and he is trying to make the bullshit go. Certainly, I can tell you that only the inspector was waiting for me when I arrived back at my cabin. And you entered without any inkling of suspicion. That is right, none whatsoever. The door mustache man was there waving the gun. Obviously, you're talking about Inspector Gregson. Yes, though at the time I didn't know the man's name. And there was no time for introductions. I value my life over manners. By which you mean that the inspector was there to assassinate you, I suppose. That was certainly the impression given by the gun pointing in my direction. But I never seen a muzzle of a revolver shake about so much in my life. Anyone would think the men have never shot someone before. Believe it or not, most of us haven't. Anyway, there was no time to call for help of a crewman at the door, so I dealt with the man myself. I soon took care of him with a Ippon Seiyo throw, though he couldn't have run away after that. Nothing here about external wounds? No. Okay, let's assuming this is wrong. We would have to prove that he was not true. I don't think anything here can prove that.
Hold it!
Even though the man has a gun, that was a very brave move, wasn't it? Ha 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 ha. My Ippon Seiyoi is far faster than a bullet, I can assure you. But surely all that commotion caused the crewman to come in. Yeah, of course, he burst in immediately without knocking. He expected to hurl himself at the stock fella and just managed to slip past him to make his escape. The outstanding guard does it again. Luckily, there are many situations I can't get out using a quick Ippon Seiyoi throw. I imagine his watch was broken when I threw him over my shoulder, nothing to do with the murder. The crown snapped off and the glass covering the face of the watch was cracked. Preferable to the man's head being pulled off or his spine crackling, wouldn't you say? Not that the man was spared for long, a bullet to the chest soon saw to that. But the point is, the broken watch doesn't prove that a murder took place. Absolutely not. All the watch proves is the power of my jujutsu throw. Whatever you say doesn't quite ring true that no shot was fired in that cabin. Because there was obviously a bullet wound in the wall, a bullet hole in the wall. Ah, what are you talking about? That's what the star of your lowbrow detective stories told you, is it? Well, I don't care for such fiction. Haven't you worked it out yet, your little stripling? No murder took place in my cabin. The inspector was clearly killed by having returned to Britain because his body was found in London. There is no evidence that proves that Vito ever returned to London alive. Just take a moment to think that the idea of yours true now. Sorry, just take a moment to think that idea of yours true now, stripling. What? If the inspector was killed on the steamship in France, how on earth could he have gotten back to Britain? When people die, their body remains on that same spot. It's a devil of a thing. Well, then obviously the culprit must have been moved with the body. How? Carrying a corpse of a ship in your arms would raise a few eyebrows at least, don't you think? Is his body's not here yet, right? Yeah. Yeah, no, he's not dead yet. God, the idea that his body would be inside this at this point is insane. Well, that is true, but our passage's luggage is inspected when it's unloaded from arriving vessels. And I would like to think the border police would query the corpse of an English gentleman as hand luggage. If the murder have taken place aboard the ship, you would imagine the body would have been disposed of at sea. There would be no sense in risking being caught by attempting to transport the back body to Britain. That's the killer idea then, but perhaps not. Miss Susato, we heard that the first-class passengers were under constant scrutiny by the crewmen posted at the garden, which would mean that the culprit have no opportunity to dispose of the body in the sea. Yes, that is true, but transporting the body to Britain may have been the only viable alternative. Dear me, you really are new to this, aren't you? I thought I'd been perfectly clear, but it seems I'm going to have to explain in words you can understand. I think I ought to alter my testimony. With your consent, of course, my lord. No objection, state your amended testimony. Okay, so now we have where we have to put the... There is no possible way I could have transported the victim body back to Britain. Yes, you could. There is an idea. Think about it, Stripling. Our passenger crew disembark at the same time and pass through the same checks at the border. The symposium guests were then driven straight to the hotel in carriages organized by the ministry. Okay. He talked to us about the immunity, but that is not written here. Oh yeah, it is! 1st of November is when they got here. Which means... when we took this photo... his body, Gregson's body was inside the fucking... Holy shit! My dude! Holy shit! The symposium guests were then driven straight to the hotel in carriages organized by the ministry. And we met you as soon as you arrived at the hotel. As so you did. Well then, remind me, did I have a corpse over my shoulder at the time? What? No. So we're in agreement then. I couldn't possibly have brought the inspector's body back to Britain. Unless, of course, they developed some clever device that didn't instantly move things from A to B. Funny you should say that. Professor Heimper's invention didn't actually work, if you remember, Mr. Naruhodo. Yeah, of course. The detective has become unusually quiet, I notice. The defense, sorry. Yes, because there is nothing really more to say. That's his story. Well, I suppose if you think about it... the body would have been moved. Special circumstances. Okay. So I need to present to him that he is immune to being searched. How do we do that? Do I present the photo and talk about it? Because dismissal notice, letter of introduction. Yeah, I think it has to be done.
Objection!
There is no possible way you could have moved Inspector Gregson's body, you say? I would say the opposite is true. And what is that supposed to mean? Far from being possible for you to do, the transporting of Inspector Gregson's body back to Britain is something only you could do. What are you talking about, Ryonosuke? As well as being the judge, Mr. Joku is also Japan Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Which means he's exempt from having his luggage searched when he enters the country. We learned that when we first met you upon your arrival in London. Well, all those passports checked and luggage search said the border took rather a lot of time. I must say, I'm very envious of your ministry status. You didn't have to go through any of that, did you? Ah, and you were jealous. I presume you recall this, Judge Jigoku? It's a photograph you took in the foyer of the hotel to mark the occasion. As the court will note, you have with you your large travel trunk. Large enough, in fact, to have a corpse inside. So Naruhodo, surely you're not suggesting? I'm afraid I am, yes. 3 days ago, when we were chatting innocently with the new arrivals from Japan in the hotel, the body of Inspector Gregson was meters away from us inside Judge Jigoku's trunk. That is... holy shit, Jigoku! Order in court. I'm skeptical, counsel, that a grown man's body could fit inside inside even the largest travel trunk. It could, because I happen to know that the witness himself, a man of considerable size, fits inside his trunk. Verifying that would be extremely simple, wouldn't it, Judge Jigoku? But inside his trunk, how horrifying! And after we spoke with you at the Great Waterloo Hotel, you have the opportunity to visit the apparent scene on Fresno Street. Taking our trunk with you in a cab, deposit the inspector body. I don't have to listen to this nonsense. Dr. Gray, the coroner who examined the body, has confirmed the possibility. Since she acknowledged there are signs that steps may have been taken to disguise the true time of death. The onset of the body decomposition could have been delayed by storing it in a refrigerator. Counsel, as I remembered explaining yesterday, refrigerators of the requisite size are few and far between. Yes, I'm sure they are, but one place they are certainly found is on large ocean liners. The ships are equipped with electrically refrigerated cold rooms to keep food fresh on their long sea voyages. And the SS Gruz is no exception. How did he put a body on the refrigerator of the ship without creating a panic? Professor Mikotoba told me about it only yesterday. Well, Judge Jigoku. However much you prolong this debate, you can't eliminate the truth. All the evidence points to you being the killer. Well, this is all very heartening. I can see that it was a wise move letting Asogi and you embark on this study tour. What are you talking about? Logical reasoning, of course. All court proceedings will be built on logical reasoning in the new century. Yeah! The very logical deductions of Ace Attorney. And I can see that you both laid firm foundations for that already. Judge Jigoku, please, stop diverting attention from the issue at hand. The defense has made an accusation against you. How do you respond? Respond? There is no need for me to respond, is there? Why ever not? Because before you can even begin to answer the question of when the victim was killed, you must first establish one key fact. Where was the victim killed? It's quite logical. The actual scene of the crime. The prosecution stance is unaltered. The killing took place in Fresno Street when the gunshot was heard. As the accused Barok von Zix shot the victim at point-blank range. Since no tangible evidence exists to disprove the prosecution claims at this time, the defense deductions amount to little more than an elaborate fairy tale. I'm afraid that's how logical reasoning the British are. I'm afraid that is how the logical reasoning the British are known for really works, young stripling. The victim was shot in the little room on Fresno Street and died instantly. I'm afraid it's the prosecution claim that is only the fairy tale here. How can you say that? Quite simple. Because the claim directly contradicts a certain piece of evidence in your possession. Very tantalizing, you have better explain yourself to court. The prosecution claims that Inspector Gregson dies instantly when he was shot at the scene of Fresno Street. But this evidence contradicts that. I mean, most of the of day 4, you know, the candle, the pocket watch. Do you have to bring a new one? The trunk?
Take that!
Japan? No, not the trunk. Was the victim killed in the Fresno Street, or was he moved there after his death? There is one piece of evidence we have that shows the answer to that question surprisingly clearly. Perhaps you should try to present the correct one. That he was moved. No. 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 The watch again? No. Nothing here makes it seem like he was moved. No. The gun? We never really look at the gun. Because there wasn't really anything to look at it. The candelabrum, no. He was moved. No, because the idea of the takedown is solid. The sword because the tip is missing. No, that's no. The passport, no. No, I don't know what the game wants me to think. Why am I still having to prove that he was there? We are just recapping the fourth case. The prosecution claims Spectre died instantly when he was shot. So this is the type of revolver. Or it's earlier. The victim was shot in the room. I'm afraid the prosecution claims there is only fairy tale. How can you say? Quite simply because the claim contradicts a piece of evidence. Very tantalizing. No, we are repeating. What's the... Okay, it's yeah. Before Yakuza or the kill. Present the Gregson truck. Doesn't work. Was the victim killed in the Fresno Street, or was he moved there? There is one piece of evidence that shows the answer to that question surprisingly clearly. What? Are we gonna go with the pocket watch again? No, that's dumb.
Take that!
No, yeah, that's stupid. No. 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 I don't think so. We can try, but I don't think so. No, no, no. don't think so. No, 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 no. I don't... No. No. No, no, no. Let's try... What did I say I wanted to try? The autopsy?
Take that!
No. There is something I'm very much missing here. There is something I just didn't connect.
Take that!
Okay, the katana. No, of course not. Okay, let me... something that proved that he was not killed in the room. What is the connection I'm missing? The prosecution going to die instantly when he was shot at the scene on Fresno Street. This evidence clearly contradicts that claim. Something that proves he wasn't dead instantly? A final note? It's not the passport, it's not the Gregson trunk because we use it, it's not the Asogi paper because that doesn't make sense, it's not the photo, it's not the spectral identification. We have tried using the watch, so it's not the watch. The photo? No.
Take that!
Really? How? How does... Okay, let's see. A photograph of the victim in the very location you claim he wasn't killed? Yes, the point is the posture of the body itself. What's wrong with it? If his better have been shot there in that room, it's out of question his body would have curled up in a ball like that. No. He would die, go to the floor, and then, like, hug himself in pain. No, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm sorry to disappoint you, but your logic is flawed, I agree. He could easily have adopted a fetal position due to the pain of the shot, which subsequently proved fatal.
Objection!
I'm sorry to disappoint you, but it's your logic that is flawed. What? According to the autopsy report, the victim died instantly. I mean, I feel like that's a big stretch. And the photo being the thing that gets to that is a big stretch game. According to the autopsy report, the victim died instantly. He would have felt no pain, much less being able to draw himself into that position. Which begs the question of why the victim body is curled up in that way. So the answer should be abundantly clear now. You're suggesting the spectral body took that on that posture ahead of its arrival in Fresno Street before it was coldly turned out on the floor from the inside of a large travel trunk, and then have a wing put on it. That is quite a stretch. I don't know if I agree with this. It looks exactly as have been kept in a confined space. Judge Jigoku, present your truck to examination. I believe it's very possible that it contains traces of the victim's blood. Also, we are going to talk about that. I was going to ask why did Sholmes check the truck and didn't see any blood marks or anything? I refuse. What? On what grounds? I'm the Minister of Foreign Affairs from the Empire of Japan. I shouldn't have to put up with this treatment just because of some stripling baseless accusation. In other words, Judge Jigoku, there is blood in your trunk. I decline to answer that. As the Minister of Foreign Affairs, at this moment you are not a government minister. Yes, he is. You are witnessing a trial of in Britain's highest court. And he's still minister. I don't care who you are and what your status outside the courtroom might be. You will not withhold information. That's not for you to decide, Ryunosuke. Nothing is more important than the truth. That is for the judge to decide. Order in court. Well, Mr. Jigoku, what is it to be? I am just enjoying. I'm not gonna make a decision as the judge. You can't be serious. You did it. Have you no shame at all, Kazuma Asugi? What? Very well, I admit it. I did bring the inspector body into the country. Inside my trunk, exactly as postulated by the defense. What? You... Dear God. So it was you. You admit it. No, I admit to nothing more than what I have said. Of killing the man, I certainly have no recollection. What on earth is that cryptic statement supposed to be? I merely disposed of the inspector body, which was left in my cabin, in order to avoid unwanted attention. As the judicial assistant over there pointed out, I have no chance to throw it into the ocean. So, I decided my only option was to bring it to Britain with me and dispose of it somewhere else. You cannot still deny it, even if you didn't do it, then who on earth did kill the man? As you know, there was one other person in my cabin that night. He had the opportunity. And moreover, he already accepted the mission to take the inspector alive. That's right. Who else could have been? It was you, Kazuma Asugi. You would throw me in the bus? Under the bus right now? Of course he would, and Strongheart is just enjoying. I never thought you stooped to this, Seishiro Jigoku. You have taken the words straight out of my mouth, prosecutor Kazuma Asugi. You thought by leaving the body in my cabin you could pin the crime on me, did you? Well, the prosecution counsel has already admitted to visiting the witness cabin on the night in question. Yes, on an assassination mission, no less. You wouldn't. So, what do you make of that, young stripling? You heard my testimony now. That is all I have to say on the matter. I admit to nothing more. Okay! So with this, Van Zix is innocent. Because Van Zix couldn't have committed the crime and put the body there. So Van Zix is innocent! Hell yeah! Slam that cane and bring the fireworks. The case is over! Counsel for the defense. What is our position? The court awaits a response to the witness assertion. The assertion that on the night in question, the victim's assailant was in fact Kazuma Asugi. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter which of the two killed as long as Van Zix is innocent. Fuck the rest. This isn't a dead end, seems to be. The answer is right in front of me. It comes out to Jingoku or Kazuma. Both of them have the opportunity to kill Gregson, but only one of them did it. And I'm just stepping away to proving who. Very well, the defense is ready to respond to the assertion put forward by Judge Jigoku. I'm going to defend my boyfriend. Judge Jigoku, let me remind you of something you said only a few minutes ago. You claim that logical reasoning is the future of the judicial process. It is, no question. Well, logical reasoning can prove something here. Namely, that it would have been impossible for Prosecutor Asugi to commit the crime. What? Naruhodo. The court will only accept an argument that is supported by compelling evidence. So, present what you have, counsel. What proof is that the allegedly demonstrate the impossibility of Prosecutor Asugi involvement? I have no fucking idea. It has to be the truck and the sword, somehow. How does it prove? No idea. Let's go with
Take
them.
that!
Okay, let's go with the drug. Because that's the only thing. And if it's not, we are going to
Take
read.
that!
Okay, let me read the hint. What else do we have on Cosmo? We really have very few things on him. And I'm just rushing. Okay, I should not be rushing like this. We know a member of the crew was on sentry duty outside the first class cabin nearly all time. As long as the guard was there, it would have been possible to hear a fire shot without being heard. That is very much narrows down the crime could have been committed. Compelling evidence. Because gun. He would have the gun. Bum, bum, nun, 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 nun. Proof the alleged demonstrated the possibility of Asugi's involvement. As long as the guard is there, it would be impossible. Very much narrows down the crime. Because when the crime was committed, Cosmo was already back to England, so he couldn't have been on the boat anymore. How do I prove that? Do I have any proof of Asugi being not there? The evacuation drill, because we are talking about the
Take
time.
that!
Okay, the itinerary for the crew members of the SS Groove, my lords, that is the conclusive proof. An itinerary, how does that prove anything? Judge Jigoku, the moment you acknowledge that you found the victim's body in your cabin, this itinerary suddenly became much more significant. What? Why? Well, then I do need to slow down and actually think things through. I am just guessing shit. On the night in question, as always, a crewman sentry was on guard outside their cabin door. As long as he was there, nobody could have fired a shot inside the cabin. Absolutely, because it's inconceivable that the guard wouldn't have heard it and come to investigate. So that tells us that the crime must have taken place when the guard was elsewhere. And that narrows it down to the 20 minutes just after 10 o'clock as indicated on the itinerary. Yes, I see no flaw in your reasoning so far. But the crucial point is this: when the evacuation drill took place, the steamship have already put to sea from the port of Dunkirk. Now, clearly the murder could only have been committed by somebody who was aboard the vessel at the time. But Prosecutor Asugi stated in yesterday's proceedings, I didn't come to Great Britain to take anyone's life, so I left Gregson and disembarked the ship. I spent the night at a boarding house in the town and returned to England the following morning. Which I'm sure the court will agree is conclusive proof that Kazuma Asugi couldn't have possibly carried out the killing. No, absolutely not. I don't accept that at all. What do you mean? The boy is just saying that to exonerate himself. We can't trust that he really disembarked the vessel. Obviously, after he left my cabin, he hides himself somewhere nearby on the ship.
Objection!
Just waiting. Your objection is so weak. No, that is out of question. Isn't it, Kazuma? As the defense rightly recalls, I disembarked the vessel and spent the night in a boarding house in Dunkirk. As I said yesterday, I signed my name in the accommodation register book. How extremely easy to verify and undeniably proof. I like how we are never actually going to verify this. No, there is no escape this time. You can forget that you're a judge or a government minister. This time you gave the court an honest answer as a common man. Break the table, break the table, break the table. You killed Inspector Tobias Gregson and transported his corpse back to Britain. Then you dumped the body into the room on Fresno Street and made it look as if the murder had happened there. That's what really happened, isn't it, Seishiro Jigoku? It was the damn trial 10 years ago. That's when it all begun. Break the table, break the table. Looking back now, my fate was decided that way. I was doomed already. Boom! Nice! Oh shit! It's over. My life is over. A British assassin to eliminate a professor in Japan, a Japanese assassin to eliminate a detective in Britain. Both assassins will use diplomatic immunity to evade conviction and return safely to their homelands. How does Jigoku not have diplomatic immunity? The assassins... Oh, because this is when diplomatic immunity was going to stop. They talk about this. This is the point where they have to do this before the deal was signed, because the deal would change how diplomatic immunity would work. The assassin exchange request arrived from Britain about a year ago. Though it was hardly a request, it was more a demand. And for that, you decided to recruit Mr. Asogi. But things didn't go according to plan. Your chosen assassin never made it to Britain, and you found yourself unable to dispatch a replacement. This conclusion to the Gregson murder was kind of short and fast. Because, like, most of the issue was just me having trouble finding one present. It was honestly very brief, because I was already on my way to Britain at that time in Kazuma-sama's place. And that left me with only one option for carrying out my obligation: to eliminate the mark myself, personally. We still haven't talked about the fucking sword. To eliminate the mark myself, personally. Of course, there was but a single opportunity for me to do that. The International Forensic Science Symposium, I presume? That is right. I decided it would be the safest to carry out the plan before my arrival in Britain. So I enlisted the help of my British counterpart. They made arrangements for a pretext that would take the inspector to Dunkirk. To lure the man in, he was given a sham mission by the Reaper. The Reaper. But there is only one person who could have done that. The mastermind of the entire operation, the Reaper himself. So that means the assassin exchanged was all planned by the Reaper. I'm not at liberty to say anything about my British counterpart. Anyway, the inspector accepted the Reaper mission and dutifully infiltrated my cabin on the steamship. But it was our trap designed to lead him to France and his own death. How awful. It was past 9 o'clock when I returned to my cabin from the dining hall that evening. I didn't give him time to attack me. I choked him when he lost consciousness. I choked him until he lost conscience. But there was a guard just outside the door, so I left at that for the time being. Even the slightest noise would have aroused suspicion, so I bided my time waiting. For the 20 minutes after 10 o'clock, I have intended to finish him by strangulation. A moment before I had the chance, he suddenly came around and went for me in a reckless move. I received a British issue gun 16 years earlier, being a member of the judiciary as a visiting student. Okay, so the gun was actually not even a twist, and yeah, he just have a one. I never imagined I have to use it for something like that. So the revolver belongs to you, does it? Ah, there is more to that. Then the victim was killed inside their cabin on the SS Gruz. Which begs the question of why you arranged for his body to be discovered on Fresno Street. The young judicial assistant over there has already answered that question. There was no way you could take the body on deck to throw it over the side. That's precisely where the crewmen were gathered for the evacuation drill. So before the first cabin sentries returned, I took the corpse to the refrigerator room. And then, no one actually checked the refrigerator room and found the body. Nobody! And then, arriving at Dover, you concealed the body in your trunk in order to smuggle past the border police. Anyway, I need to take the steps if the police were to be convinced when the body was found in London. In that case, you must have intimate details of Inspector Gregson's intended schedule. Yes, my British counterpart sent me everything I needed to know. The inspector was due at Furnace Street at 5 o'clock that afternoon, in order to meet a man by the name of Hugh Bone, from whom he would take back his police identification. I decided that man would be the perfect person to set up as the culprit, so I took a hackney carriage over there with the body still in my trunk. Must have been just after we took this photograph with you at the hotel then. We are really just recapping everything we have just learned. Okay. Yes, I wasn't expecting a welcoming committee. I was more than a little nervous. On Fresno Street, I spotted a young girl selling firecrackers. Miss Venus, of course. I conceived of the candle trick there and then. So I donned a simple disguise and approached the girl to buy enough firecrackers to replicate a gunshot. What sort of disguise? For some reason, the inspector had a bright red hairpiece in his own traveling case, so I put that on, although I suspect I drew more attention to myself in that I would have otherwise. The hairpiece found at the scene. Inspector have it ready for the investigation. I only arrived at the room at around 4:45. So I quickly placed the body on the floor, moved the notice board, set up the candle trick, arranged it so the firecrackers would go off with a bang around 15 minutes later, so that Mr. Bone, who was due to arrive at 5, would walk straight into a trap. Except, at the last moment, I made a careless blunder. What was that? I imagine it was the bag of fish and chips. I didn't notice it had fallen out of his overcoat pocket when I moved the body to the refrigeration room. I put it back into his pocket the following morning, but... well, it seems the warmth of the heated cabin have accelerated the decay of the fish. Oh yeah, we did use that as proof. Anyway, that is everything. All the sort of details of what I did. Okay, how did Kazuma fucking sword got stuck on the Gregson trunk? What is the second half of the case? We still need to know that. How are we going to connect Strongheart to this? Time for the not guilty. Bring the fireworks. I heard enough. We arrive at the truth about the murder of one of the country's most capable and respected police inspectors. The witness will be tried in the coming days. For a crime of such vile nature, you can expect the most severe penalty. Yeah, no. The British court does not have authority to execute the Minister of Foreign Affairs of another country. An exchange of assassins, what a foolhardy idea. Mr. Jigoku, one last detail. Who was your counterpart in Britain? Who was the mastermind behind the assassin exchange? Nothing you say now can make matters any worse for you. Just tell us. Enough. Why? I have already told you that I cannot say. Why are you protecting Strongheart? How? Why? Okay, he has some blackmail on you from the case of 10 years ago. But Genshin was already see as the killer. What blackmail could he have? I have already told you that I cannot say. Even though as things stand now, you may very well never set foot in your homeland again. What are you waiting for? Can't we get this over with now? Finish it. All of it. I'm finished. I agree. Let's get this done. Then, in the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I now pronounce the findings of this court. This man before us has admitted to the willful murder of Tobias Gregson. Not guilty. I mean, he is guilty. We are not guilty. Teshiro Jigoku, it is the opinion of this court that you should be found guilty. Wait, did I say Tobias Gregson? Oh, Seshiro of Tobias Gregson. And may I remind all those present of the strict confidentiality demands by this closed court. We still don't know who the Reaper is. I mean, we know, but still haven't proved it. Oh, there was no hold it. I was waiting for the hold it. Moments ago, Mr. Jigoku signed a written confession, admitting to the murder of Inspector Gregson and the subsequent conveyance of the body. In short, the defendant's innocence has therefore been established beyond doubt. There is still so much left to talk about. Wonderful, well done, Mr. Naruhodo. Yeah, thank you. Something wrong? I'm just a little troubled by his silence. The true identity of the Reaper of the Bailey and this extraordinary assassin exchange. We do remain in the dark about these mysteries, however, insofar as the indictment brought against the defendant in this trial, we have reached a conclusion. I have every intention of pursuing both mysteries as a prosecutor. As you wish. Now, for the formal abjuration, I hereby declare Kazuma. The prosecution calls for the abjuration to be deferred. Counsel? The accused's innocence hasn't been fully established at all, and therefore it would be wrong to deliver a verdict at this time. That is the prosecution's unwavering position. What? But the Jigoku has already confessed. Nevertheless, Barak Van Zix has committed crimes for which he must be punished. Well, it would appear you have information that the court needs to hear, Prosecutor Asugi. Certainly, the murder of Inspector Gregson was actually carried out by Seishiro Jigoku. But it's clear from the witness testimony that he was coerced into complying with the plot, into the sick, merciless assassin exchange. That may be true, but... So what I want to know is, who coerced Jigoku? Who was pulling the strings? The victim went to France having been ordered on a mission for the killer, only to be murdered. In other words, the mastermind behind the assassination exchange is someone in position to give such an order. As we have already established, the Reaper himself. Well, certainly that would appear to follow. The prosecution hereby formally accused the man in the dock, Barak Van Zix, of being the Reaper of the Bailey, and furthermore, I'm gonna prove his guilt beyond all reasonable doubt. What? What? Okay, we are going to continue now with the talk about the Reaper. Makes sense. He's not wrong about it, because if he is the Reaper, he is complicit on murder. The Reaper of the Bailey is a long-standing mystery, Counsel. Are you suggesting you have some new information with which to build a case? Scotland Yard has already investigated Lord Van Zix very thoroughly in that regard. They found no evidence whatsoever to substantiate the claim that he is the Reaper. Perhaps, but circumstances have now changed. What do you mean? It's already been established that the assassin exchange was negotiated with Jigoku by the Reaper himself, which means we now have a new line of questioning by which to identify definitely the main identity. That is the prosecution intention here. I must say I'm surprised by quite how tenacious you appear to want to besmirch my name. You're guilty of an unforgivable crime, Lord Von Zix. And I will bring you to justice for it, whatever it takes. Yeah, we are going to have 3 courtrooms in a row because we are going to have this. Then we have just finished the Gregson case. Now we are going to have the Reaper case and then the 10 years ago case. Okay, that explains Kazuma's silence before. He will stop at nothing to finish what Lord Von Zix unwittingly started 10 years ago. Very well, whilst extremely irregular, why would you go along with this? I will, on this occasion, grant the prosecution for the opportunity for witness testimony. Because you fully believe that Asogi will get Von Zix and not you. So you are confident that this is going to be good for you. The defendant will disclose any and all involvement he has with the Reaper and the assassin exchange. I thank you, my lord, for guiding this court so wisely. If you know this is some hidden shade, and I love hidden shade, I hereby disclose this court to be in session for a supplementary hearing. Return a blind eye to this courtesy as I verify that this vile and unremitting accusation has ensured the contents of my hollow chalice. Lord Von Zix, I first have to suffer the pseudonym of the Reaper 10 years ago now, and ever since that time I endured the weight of the implied guilt that has gone with it. So, I welcome the chance to testify now, and crush those allegations once and for all. Okay, so we just finished the first, and now we are gonna go into the second courtroom. So let me take a 5-minute break just to stretch my legs and go to the toilet for a minute, and we will be right back. Okay. I welcome the chance to testify and crush those allegations once and for all. Good. Then let justice decide, Lord Von Zix. The prosecution seeks to begin building its case by calling the accuser to the stand as the primary witness. I'm surprised we didn't have it to be continued in the middle of this. In order that he may answer the accusation brought by the prosecution that he is the Reaper of the Bailey. And what says the defense? Putting the defendant in the witness stand can be extremely dangerous. And Kazuma-sama is so emotional at the moment, he's not thinking logically. You're right that he's not himself, but I knew it would be like this. And I came here today determined to face him through whatever means arise. As a lawyer and as his boyfriend. Then that is what we must do. The defense has no objection, my lord. Very well. Defendant, you will take to the witness stand and give informal testimony on the subject of your involvement with the Reaper and the assassin exchange. As you wish, my lord. Okay. No, really, I am stunned that we didn't have a pause before to be continued here. The Reaper and the assassin exchange. I have never taken a lie the life of another, nor have I instructed another to kill. I have been investigating the truth behind the Reapers for years, and I was aware of Gregson's involvement. That is the reason why I went to Fresno Street that day, and how I came to discover the body. The point is, no common thread existed between myself, Gregson, and Dr. Wilson. Why Dr. Wilson? Clearly, therefore, there is no reason to suspect me of being behind the assassin exchange. Oh, okay. Because the British wanted to kill Dr. Wilson. Okay. Clearly, therefore, there is no reason to suspect me of being behind the assassin exchange. Okay. The last time that Barak was a witness on the fourth case, we were doing the cross, but who actually yelled the objection and started contradicting him was Kazuma. I wonder if they are gonna do that again. So, you deny our accusations by the prosecution. You deny our accusations by the prosecution. Both that you're the Reaper of the Bailey and that you masterminded the assassin exchange. I acknowledge that the public at large believe me to be the Reaper. However, that is fallacy, which I alone am in a position to forswear. Sorry. Forswear. That's a new word. To agree to give up to do something. Commit perjury. Ah. Interesting. Naturally, the prosecution believes the testimony just given by the accuser to be untrue. Ryunosuke Naruhodo. Yes. Let me ask you, why are you here? What really brings you to this courtroom? You are why we are here. A desire to uncover the truth. Even if the truth proves your client to be guilty. From all my experience in this courtroom, I have come to realize something. The truth cannot be hidden. Sooner or later, it will come out. So, it is always my intention to work with my client in pursuit of the truth. I want you to remember what you just said. Enough dilatory chatter. Counsel for the defense, proceed to cross-examine the witness. Ah, yes, my lord. I know exactly what you're thinking, Kazuma. And I know you're just wanting to point it out. The contradiction, you are convinced lies somewhere within this man's testimony. If we press, is Kazuma gonna call the contradiction? Because I hope so. Never take life from another, nor have I instructed anyone to
Hold it!
So, you're not what the general public refer to as the infamous Reaper of the Bailey? Exactly. Don't imagine for a second the court will be satisfied with a one-word answer on this. I realize that. If you're intending to commit another sentence, this could take a while, Kazuma. Let him do it. Don't you find it disturbing, though, that one by one the defendants who have been acquitted after your unsuccessful prosecution were killed? Let me answer that question by posing another. If, one by one, the defendants who have been acquitted after your successful defense were killed, would you find that disturbing? Disturbing? I couldn't possibly say how that would make me feel with one word answer like that. Exactly. Well, that told me. But even though I'm not the Reaper, that doesn't mean I ignore all the hearsay. I've been investigating the truth behind the Reaper for years. I'm aware of Greg's involvement. You say 4 years, but how long exactly? Since the very first time the Reaper's influence was felt in this courtroom, 10 years ago now. And your investigation led you somehow to Inspector Gregson, you're saying? I didn't want to believe it. He was a personal acquaintance. We worked on cases together in the past. A friend, even. It felt like a betrayal, but I demand to. Sorry, it felt like a betrayal, but I demand permission to search his office at the yard without his knowledge. Which is when you found his secret notebook. It's when I first learned of the location he noted only as Cruz and the appointment at 5 PM on 31. So I didn't know the significance of those details at the time. So now we are at the nub of the matter. As it turned out, the significance for me personally was very unfortunate. That is the reason why I went to Furnace 2.
Hold it!
But why did you go to that specific location? I thought that if it was the Reaper's headquarters, then by turning up there at 5 o'clock, I would catch whoever was involved with the Red-Handed. Sadly, all that was awaiting me was the Inspector corpse. Yes, even though it wasn't designed for you, you walked straight into the trap set by Jigoku. Exactly. Jigoku have intended to implicate Huge Bone, but unhappily for me, I arrived at the scene first. Ah, a ridiculous, careless blunder. Moving on, though, so throwing insults, I see. Come on, Ryunosuke, that's how every prosecutor works. Think what you will, it doesn't change the truth. The point is, no common thread exists between myself, Gregson, and Dr. Wilson. I think this is the issue.
Hold it!
There is a link between you and Gregson, though. Of course, we were close acquaintances, we worked on a number of cases together. I consider the man to be a mentor of sorts. He taught me a number of important lessons. He did, such as where to buy good fish and chips and such like. Well, that was convincing. Dr. Wilson was a coroner, of course, but that was some time in the past. And in any case, I understand it was several years ago now that he was invited to work at the Japanese university. That is right, he was a visiting professor at the Imperial Yume University in Tokyo. It should be unambiguously clear then that no link exists between myself and him. In other words, I have no motive for sending some assassin across the ocean to kill the man. Sounds plausible enough, and I want to believe it, but something about this just doesn't sit right with me. Okay, no reason for suspect. Okay, so it's this one and maybe the obituary? Sorry, not the obituary, autopsy report. Certainly, as it stands, there is no evidence to suggest that you concocted the scheme. But as it stands, we only have the accused's insistence on his innocence. Sorry. Perhaps there is some reason that would explain why he masterminded the assassin exchange. And if a reason could be established later in these proceedings, then the accused claiming this testimony that he wasn't involved would amount to perjury. Well, yes, that is true, but clearly Kazuma-sama intends to identify a reason and use it to make his case. So if we don't identify something first, he will gain the advantage. This could be dangerous. Okay, and now the hint. Convincing testimony with no apparent connection between the three men, there is no motive. Yeah, that's the thing we have to do. I agree that doesn't appear to be a particular link, but with the inclusion of one other person. Another person, Mikotoba. Alright, I reviewed the notes in my courtroom. Let's go to it. Okay. What do we have from 10 years ago? This is just the runaway. The one I wanted to use is this. Clint Van Zyx, John H. Wilson, additional notes. Wait, I don't remember this. Recent scarlet ink stains visible on the little and ring finger on the right hand. No documents in corresponding ink was found. I don't remember this. Yeah. So yeah, this is the connection. What is this? An autopsy report? Wait, this is 10 years old. From the autopsy of Lord Clint Van Zyx? What? My brother autopsy report? I'm pleased to see the defense doesn't intend to run from the undeniable truth. Order in court. What reason do you have for presenting a 10-year-old autopsy report here, counsel? This, the autopsy report of the professor's final victim, is an undeniable undelible. I'm just gonna say undeniable. An undeniable link between Inspector Gregson and Dr. Wilson and the defendant. Not the accused name again. Cursed name again. The professor. I have personally researched all of the court records relating to that case. I know that at the time, autopsy was considered sacrilege to the victim's soul. And for a member of the aristocracy like Lord Van Zix, like Lord Clint Van Zix, it was unthinkable. But someone implored the powers that be to allow the autopsy to go ahead. Inspector Gregson. He declared that he was certain he would obtain conclusive proof from the procedure. And it was Dr. Wilson who conducted the autopsy. His signature is clearly visible on the document. As promised by Dr. Gregson, the autopsy did indeed produce evidence. Evidence that conclusively proved Genshin Asogi was guilty of the murder. In my brother's dying moments, he mustered all his remaining strength to leave that vital clue behind. Indeed, that was the key to indicating the professor for his crimes, and the conclusive evidence that convicted him. It enabled Lord Van Zix here to avenge his brother's senseless death, with a marvelous victory in court. You killed, motherfucker. A marvelous victory, was it? I wonder if that's really true. What? Could the same be said if it turned out that the key piece of evidence in question was in fact fabricated? If the inspector, the coroner, and the prosecutor all colluded together to cast an innocent Japanese man as a mass murderer and send him to his death? That is outrageous. And now, 10 years later, for some reason, the secret has been threatened and needs protecting. Which why the inspector and the coroner have to be silenced, isn't it? By someone in power in Japan and in Britain, using the two killers recruited for the assassin exchange. Good idea, Strongheart. Order at once. You still should have just used assassin for both. 10 years ago, my father was convicted in this very courtroom as a mass murderer to be sentenced to death. But it was all a sham, and I swore to myself that I proved it. Which is why I have come to Britain whatever the cost. You will have to forgive me if I feel compelled to toast this vengeful Nipponese tenacity of purpose here. However, he who fails to squash his emotion in the courtroom has failed as a lawyer. Come on, Kazuma, you know this won't wash. You claim your father was misrepresented in a trial that took place a decade ago. You must see that without evidence that is nothing more than a wild accusation. As it happened, I have evidence. What? As the court has heard, I crossed the channel to France with Gregson on the 31. I went with him on a pretext of being the assassin recruited to kill Seshiro Jigoku. But my true intentions were to make the inspector tell me the truth. What truth? The truth about the evidence. And he acknowledged what I already deduced. That is a closed guarded secret about what went on in the autopsy reports 10 years ago. What? A secret? I know nothing of that in secret. While we waited for my supposed mark in Jigoku's cabin, I drew my claimed illustrious sword, Karuma, before the inspector's eyes. He very quickly understood what my true motive was. And that's how the blade got stuck in the truck. Okay, right, I see. You're that Yasagi's young lad, are you? And what? You're gonna cut me down for that thing, is that it? That will be very much depend on the answer you give to my questions. I want to know what really happened 10 years ago. The truth, that is all. Before we get into it, let me make one thing clear. I still believe your father was the professor, there is no doubt in my mind. But unfortunately back then, we didn't have the evidence we need to make the crime stick. So, you admitted then? The evidence used by the trial was fabricated. It was for the good of the country. Anyway, I was just following orders. Orders? What exactly did you do? Speak. I'm not saying another word. Even if your life depends on it. That's right, even then. Oh, that's when the tip of the sword broke. Oh, Kazuma-sama. The results of Clint Van Zyck's autopsy were fabricated, and the investigating officer, Gregson, and the lead coroner, Wilson, must have known about it. And they can only have been ordered to pervert the course of justice in this way by one man, Lord Van Zyck. In other words, the defendant did have cause to organize the exchange of assassins. Exactly, as was established earlier. It has to be the Reaper himself who liaised with Jigoku in Japan to arrange the exchange. So, it follows that the Reaper true identity can only be that of the man who stands accused in this courtroom today, Barak Van Zyck. It is fun how everything just points to Strongheart, but we cannot point fingers at him for so long.
Objection!
Kazuma Asogi. What? What you just told the court, are you absolutely certain of your facts? Did Gregson really fabricated evidence for that trial 10 years ago? I heard it with my own ears. His shameful admission. In that case, I know the name of the Reaper. What? Lord Van Zyck? I gave no such orders, I know that for certain. Which narrows down the remaining possibilities to one. Lord Van Zyck is the one behind all this, then yes, there is only one other person who could have done something like that. I believe I know who it is too. You... I just have a feeling this name was going to come up. The true identity of the Reaper...
Take that!
The only person who can have arranged the assassin's exchange and manipulate the autopsy report is the Lord Chief Justice himself, Lord Mael Strongheart. What? Lord Strongheart? Come on, put him pointing to him. Yes, it's true that 10 years ago the defendant handled the prosecution of the professor in court. But he only took the case after his brother, Lord Van Zyck, have been killed. Strongheart is just like, shut the fuck up. I can only assume that this is the most inappropriate joke in British judicial history. Well, Lord Van Zyck. 10 years ago now, I was very new to my profession, but I have a burning desire to avenge my brother's death, so I pledged for control of the case. The investigation to that point, the supplication of the Lord to allow my brother's corpse to be examined, all the evidence I was given, the autopsy report, it all came from you. I have spent my life since then believing I was in your debt, for the way you stood aside and let me handle the trial. But I see now that I was very much mistaken. It was a hugely influential force that caused the inspector and the coroner to break the law 10 years ago. And that same force was still felt a decade later on the other side of the world by Seshiro Jigoku. Lord Strongheart, everything falls in place when you recognize that you are the Reaper of the Bailey. The court awaits your response, my lord. This may very well go down in British judicial history, but I assure you, it is no joke. Consider this a formal accusal by the defense. It doesn't warrant a response. A formal accuser. Don't be absurd. The defense claims are utter nonsense, a wild fantasy at best. You're not gonna defend yourself. You claim there was some wrongdoing with Lord Clint von Zick's autopsy. That is utterly untrue.
Objection.
Oh, we have a person. We have someone. We can prove it because we have fucking Mikotoba who was there. He is the only person who was there who is alive. Oh, but I heard it from Gregson on lips. He admitted to it. And where is your evidence? What? Gregson is dead now, unless you were thinking of summoning a ghost to the stand. I mean, I haven't played Ace Attorney 6 on its entirely yet. You mean to say? I forget how the system works in your little backwards country. But in the country of the British Empire, without evidence, there is no case. I have no intention of entertaining some wild fantasy that can't possibly be substantiated by anyone or anything. Call Mikotoba to the stands! Order in court! Following Inspector Gregson's murder and in the light of Dr. Wilson's death as well, there is really no one left who testified about the events of 10 years ago, is there? So that was the real purpose of the assassin exchange. This court has no business ranking over the cause of a case that was concluded a decade ago. The accuser brought by the prosecution and the defense is categorically denied. Really, I am waiting for like our usual judge just get into here and sit on the chair. I take it there is no objection. Kazuma, he's more or less waited his whole life for this moment. Is there really nothing else we can do? Is there no other avenue we can go down in pursuit of the truth about what happened all those years ago? Is there someone who could testify about? There is someone! He's gone to extraordinary lengths to cover his tracks. Even so, as far as dispatching an assassin all the way to Japan to ensure Dr. Wilson's silence. And Dr. Sit won't say anything out against Strongheart. But there is still one ray of hope. Actually, there is one person. One person who could still testify about the autopsy. Only ridiculous, there is no one left. Who, Ryunosuke? Who? Tell me. Kazuma? Please, this trial can't end. Not yet. I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing this for the truth. The person the defense would like to call to the stand is to testify about the autopsy of Lord Clint von Zix is...
Take that!
Heaven help us, another Japanese! An expert in forensic medicine, my lord, Professor Eugene Mikotoba. 16 years ago, he came to London with Seishiro Jigoku and Genshin Asugi as a visiting student. And what could this testimony possibly tell us? Professor Mikotoba was the primary assistant during the autopsy in question. He was also the person who actually penned the report. Incorrect. The autopsy was carried out by the coroner, Dr. Wilson. The report carried his signature. It was the primary assistant's duty to keep written records of the coroner work during the procedure. In actual fact, the coroner merely read over the report at the end and signed it. In other words, Professor Mikotoba witnessed the entire... Okay. How the fuck are you not aware of this? Because Sif should have told this shit to you. How are you not aware that there was another person in the room? The defense demands that Professor Mikotoba be summoned as a witness as a matter of urgency. Whatever really happened in the autopsy laboratory 10 years ago is something only he can tell us. I deny, because I can. The defense demand is denied. What? Professor Mikotoba is in London at this very moment. We could summon him to the stand in minutes. No, of course he's not gonna agree to it. Strongheart has no intention of summoning anyone who knows. He's still concerned about protecting himself. Professor Asugi, let me refresh your... Prosecutor Asugi, let me refresh your memory, as you seem to have forgotten the prosecution's test. Only minutes ago, you accused the defendant of being the Reaper and masterminding the assassin exchange. I did, yes. So, present your evidence for those claims and make your case complete. At the time, I don't have the requested evidence, but that is exactly why we need the witness testimony. The professor case is closed. There are no clues in the distant past that will bolster your argument today. I'm afraid to say, Prosecutor Asogi, that you would appear to be possessed by the spirit of your late Homesido, oh my god! Homesido father. Now, as I said earlier, this court has already reached a conclusion, with respect to the matter at hand. Inspector Gregson was murdered by the Japanese Supreme Court Judge Seishiro Jiguku. As for any hidden circumstance that may exist, they will be investigated in due course by the proper authorities.
Objection!
But we all know what will happen. That would just give the mastermind of the whole venture time to cover his tracks again. By which you mean me. Yes. Your punishment for this contemplative behavior will be decided at a later date. As for you, Prosecutor Asogi, you'll be remanded following these procedures. You will be remanded following these proceedings. Willingly, I trust, since you gave your word. We need someone above you. This futile game of revenge is over, young Master Asogi. We don't have anyone above you. We need a Deus Ex Machina. We need something. Come on, the plot twist. That will be all. I hereby declare... What did you brought, Holmes? Mr. Sholmes, this is no place for amateur detection, Mr. Sholmes. They remind you that these proceedings are closer to the general public. You will leave this courtroom at once. Mr. Sholmes was instrumental in the apprehension of Seishiro Jiguku before he fled from Europe. The court should hear what he has to say. Lord Mael Strongheart, it is imperative that you refrain from bringing this trial to an end at this stage. Is it really? What would that be? You need only to recall your own words from the opening of the trial to answer that question. If I may, we will stop at nothing to uncover the whole truth behind these disturbing findings. Surely it can't be that the shock of being accused of being the Reaper yourself has erased that from your memory, can it? The whole truth, sir, has already been uncovered. Okay, so he brought Mikotoba, but still, he's still going to be denied. You would see that we have a great many important members of the judiciary presented here today. I put it to you, my dear fellows, should the trial end at this juncture? After all, why have you been invited to attend, to nod along to the prevarications of your superiors? You're calling to the public to yell at him? Order! Order in court! It seems to me that we stand before a door that leads to a new era of legal practice. A door that is ajar. That has emerged from the shadows of the Reaper decade-long ascendance. For you and you alone, my dear fellows, have the power to push this door open now. The auditors in the gallery have no right to express an opinion on the court's proceeding. Silence. He is right, the judge has absolutely authority here. Yes, if he can call the trial to end, it must end. But will that really do? Since dark things are occurring behind the scenes, dark things indeed. Is there a single person here who can honestly say he doesn't... What? The trial should go on, summon the witness. That's right, we need to clear this before the young Japanese fellow remains in custody. I couldn't read that sentence. My lord, you assure those present that you will uncover the whole truth. Vindicate yourself out of this outlandish... The truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. That is the very foundation of British law. A toast, my dependable colleagues in the gallery. Testify, testify, fight forever, fight forever. Well, my lord, you heard the voice of the British justice, I take it. I think you find it rather awkward to silence. I mean, he can still just say no. court will recess briefly. I have no intention of shrinking from these allegations. Bailiff, arrange for the subpoena of the witness at once. As soon as the gentlemen arrive in the courtroom, we shall reconvene. A recess won't be necessary, my lord. Pardon? Mikotoba is a close friend of mine. He accompanied me today and is waiting in the antechamber as we speak. He is literally right there! I do believe he's been enjoying a little trip down memory lane, in fact. What? Professor Mikotoba is here! Mr. Sholmes, you didn't know this would happen, did you? My dear fellow, no one is in a better position to answer that question than you, surely. I wasn't just asking for the fun of it, you know. Well, I must thank you for the assistance in this matter, Mr. Sholmes. However, you are of no further use here. Kindly leave the courtroom at once. Of course, in truth, I find myself rather busy now as a result of these developments. Naruhodo. Yes? I trust you have Ari's little lucky charm with you? Absolutely. It's still in my pocket. She sends her regards, and a reminder, if you find yourself at a dead end, the ear is at the disposal. Just one tug, if you please. Oh, of course. In that case, the trial will continue without a delay. Bailiff, show the witness to the stand. So, it's Lord Strongheart. He is the Reaper of the Bailey. What exactly is this trial going to take me, I wonder? Just how deep am I about to be plunged into the blackness of the abyss? We need to swap judges, come on! Well, I'm ready. I'm ready to head into the heart of the Maelstrom and confront whatever horrors it tries to draw me under. To be continued? To be continued. This is the break point. Okay. Let me stretch my legs again. Ooh, I need mental 1 minute. Part 3. Okay. Let me take a minute. I'm not just a second. Oh. So, witness, please state your name and occupation for the courtroom. Let me just make sure everything is alright. Eugene Mikotoba. Okay, we are not finishing this trial today, right? Because I'm going to stop in like 40 minutes or so, 45. And this is going to be like at least... It took us 2 hours to just do this section. This is going to be at least another 2 hours. Are we going to finish tomorrow? Hopefully? Eugene Mikotoba, lecturer in forensic medicine at the Imperial Yume University in Tokyo, Japan. And Professor Mikotoba, the young lady beside you is... this is Dr. Maria Gori, Scotland Yard's practicing coroner and the daughter of Dr. Sit, I understand? Yes, Dr. Sit. Sorry, let me just... Okay. Sorry. I'm afraid I cannot tell you why she's here. She just appeared. Who the fuck is Iris? You summoned this strange Japanese man as a witness to that autopsy? But you don't summon Mama. That doesn't make no sense. She was there too. That's about the size of it. I have her eyes boring into the side of my cheek constantly, whilst I was in the antechamber too. For a man, the idea of it is making me shudder. Revelations about the Dr. Sit that came to light some days ago defiled the reputation of the entire judiciary. She was therefore deemed unfit to appear as a witness in today's proceeding. The Ministry of Justice decided decision on that is final. Well, we wouldn't want any more perjury to be committed, would we? The Ministry of Justice, some questionable strings are being pulled, I think. Really? Really, Naruhodo? Have you started to consider that maybe there is some corruption In the High Court? Really? Now? I remember you, Dr. Mikotoba, but I certainly never expected to be meeting you under these circumstances. Yes, it's been a long while, Lord Strongheart. The prosecution understands that you were a visiting student of forensic science in London until 10 years ago. That is right, I studied under Dr. Wilson at St. Sinner. So, you were present at the autopsy of my brother, Lord Clint Van Zyck? I was, yes. I assisted Dr. Wilson with the entire procedure. Mama is far more skilled than any Japanese man. Well, Dr. Wilson asked me to be his primary assistant on that occasion, and the autopsy report was actually penned by you, I believe. Yes, I noted all of the doctor's findings, and when we were done, he read it through the documents and signed it. Through the documents. Poor Mama, as secondary assistant, she wouldn't have such a good view of all the innards. So, Professor, do you remember Inspector Gregson? Yes, of course. If it wasn't for his insistence, Lord Van Zyck's autopsy would never have happened. But he was absolutely convinced that it would reveal decisive evidence against Genshin, you see. So, Lord Strongheart have to entreat the nobility to allow it to take place. You correct me if I'm wrong, my lord. It was a result of that autopsy that a mass murder was apprehended and justice. It was a result of that autopsy that a mass murder was apprehended and justice was done. Gregson admitted before he was killed. He admitted the result of the autopsy was fabricated. You were there at the time, so you must testify. You have obligation to tell the truth about what really went on. Absolutely, that is precisely why I'm here. And that is why I'm here too. Very well, you will give your formal testimony now, witness. Before you begin, a word of warning. You will state truthfully and accurately what you saw and what you heard at the time. I wouldn't dream of doing otherwise, my lord. The moment your testimony verges on supposition, I will expel you from my courtroom. Remember that. Okay. Before we begin, let me reread. Okay, the only things we have is the Asogi paper, which these are fake. And last year's testament, the Mr. Virgin claims disappeared after the conviction execution. Mr. Asogi described as the only weapon I have left. And he didn't have anything to write. And so I assume that it was some paper he stole or something. And the autopsy reads, made between 9 p.m. and midnight, Clint Van Zyck, British. Death from a stab wound to the heart. Pain. Other superficial external wounds indicative of a duel. So there was a fight between Genshin and Clint. They fought. Recent scarlet ink stains visible on the little and ring fingers of the right hand, but no document in corresponding ink was found. And these scarlet ink stains are going to be related to the Asogi papers. Vital evidence recovered from the victim's stomach during autopsy. No, this is the hand of Clint, not Asogi. Vital evidence recovered from the victim's stomach during autopsy. Credit to Inspector Gregson for petitioning so doggedly for the autopsy proceeding. Okay, don't we also have a fake autopsy from what's the word? From Genshin? On the based escape of convict, death tales, full cooperation. Indications are that the jailbreak plot was conceived prior to the convict's incarceration. Believe the convict engaged some sort of negotiation with prison staff. Full disclosure of information regarding this negotiation will be demanded. Aside from these two, Also, there was the only other clue I can think immediately, aside from the things we learned in the third case, is the dog collar from the second case, which I still don't know how it's going to be connected. We have this photo, which we also don't know how it will be connected. This from Greg's. I wish they would clear our inventory at this point. From my own observations, I couldn't say there was any indication of the autopsy reports have been fabricated. Death resulted from a wound made by a Western-style sword transfixing the heart. That I found a little strange. There was no other sign of internal injury, nothing questionable at all. It was just that beautiful but dangerous piece of evidence removed from the man's stomach. Presumably to have been swallowed by the victim as a way to posthumously identify his assailant. Oh, the fucking ring! Oh, the ring on that fucking image. I noticed there was a really visible red ring on Genshin's hand. And so they made it so Kirk swallowed the ring, and that's the proof. No indication, nothing to suggest fabrication. Professor Mikotoba, are you certain about that? Well, nothing that I could positively identify as such, much less swear to in testimony. Look at that evil face! Wow, that clears things up nicely. The only fabrication here, Asogi, has come from you. What? You claim the inspector confessed just before his death, but that is fabrication. No, he freely acknowledged it, I swear he did. Freely, with the tip of a sword to his throat, the man was clear at his wit's end. The court will give no credence to this confession that was utterly in obvious desperation. Quite simply, there was nothing questionable about the investigation of Lord Clint Van Ziek's death. And with this testimony we have, without question, uncovered the whole truth of the matter. I have the right to cross-examine it. If I may, my lord. There was most certainly something questionable about it, and the whole truth does rather elude us, I feel. I beg your pardon. Well, you're obviously aware of the facts of the case. All four of Professor's previous victims died when an enormous beast was set upon them that ripped out their throats. Such horrifying crimes. But curiously, the killer's last victim, Lord Clint Van Ziek, suffered a different fate. You're right. He was stabbed through the heart with a sword. Who have a big dog to kill people? It's not gonna be Strongheart. Who else could it be? Clint's own brother is the killer? And Genshin killed him because he was a mass murderer? And the dog tag is going to be Van Ziek? No, it was like a B. Yeah, because it was the Hound of Baskerville. How is the dog going to be connected to this bullshit? He was stabbed through the heart with a sword. That is enough. I believe I warned you about this, witness. I promise to curtain your testimony as soon as it is entered the realms of supposition or speculation. Very well, my lord. In that case, the defense will pursue a conclusion to this during the cross-examination. What? I have the right to cross-examine every witness? And I fully intend to exercise that right. Ryunosuke. I'm afraid that even the presiding judge has no authority to contrive the letter of the law. As I'm sure every member of the judiciary present in the gallery would agree. We are really just using the people watching as the ammunition. Very well, you may begin, counsel. However, the moment your argument strays from the established facts, I will not hesitate to bring the cross-examination to an end. Proceed with caution. Yes, my lord. Can I press everything, or am I gonna be punished for it? From my observation, I couldn't say there was any indication of autopsy results have been fabricated.
Hold it!
You couldn't say. No, sadly not. Ooh, we can look at Van Zieks. Then you couldn't say there wasn't any indication. And Devil's proof is not the way to go. True, I could not. I was at Dr. Wilson's side as he performed the procedure, recording what he did. At the time, he instructed me to fetch the implement and such like. Whilst I was away from the operation table, obviously I could have missed something. At those times, what was the secondary assistant doing? Following this Japanese man order to adjust the lightning or passing implement. But that doesn't mean Mama wasn't a vital part of the team. Quite yes, so would you kindly refrain from staring at my cheek like that? Professor Mikotoba, think, was there nothing at all that seemed out of place to you? Well, yes, there was, as a matter of fact. Death resulting from a wound made by a Western-style surgery transfixing to the heart. That I found a little strange.
Hold it!
In all the previous four killings attributed to the professor, the victims were killed by an enormous dog, I believe. Their throats were mauled. Like, okay, we do have to talk about this. Like, who the fuck could the true professor be? If it's not Genshin, it has to be Clint, because like, it's either Clint. I don't think it's Barry. Or Mao Strongheart. It could be Clint or Strongheart, but I feel like Strongheart already has so much shit on him. And Clinton being the killer and then Genshin killed him because to stop him kind of fits. But that would also traumatize Van Zieks. The victims were killed by an enormous dog, I believe. Their throats were mauled. Corrected, and Lord Van Zieks was stabbed. Do you mean to say you think Lord Clint Van Zieks may not have in fact been one of Professor's victims? There is no base on which to doubt the finding of the investigations carried out at the time. But Genshin Asogi confessed to all his crimes upon his arrest. He admitted to have taken the lives of all 5 members of the aristocracy. Yet, the beast that was used to carry out the killings was never identified. No evidence was found to suggest that Genshin have ever kept a dog. A true hound of hell. There was no signs of internal injury, nothing questionable at all.
Hold it!
But, you weren't actually present at the autopsy yourself, were you, Dr. Gori? Does that matter? Well, just wonder how useful your testimony can be in that case, really. I mean, it would be different if your mother were in the stand, but... I read all the paperwork about the case, and Mama told me the story countless times. The statement I just made is exactly what is written in the autopsy report. I did confirm that myself, it's true. Besides the stab wound, there were no other signs of internal trauma. I see. Mama told me all about it. Oh? She said there was nothing of note internally, but they did find an amazing piece of evidence, something unbelievable. Unbelievable, what do you mean? Come on, Dr. Gori, what was it? We'll get to it. Just that beautiful but dangerous piece of evidence removed from the man's stomach.
Hold it!
What exactly was it though? What does beautiful but dangerous mean? Well, it was sparkly and round with a hole, as if it might slip over a finger perhaps. It was a ring, belonging to Genshin Asogi. My father's ring was inside the victim's stomach. At the time, Genshin wore a large ring on the digitus quarter of his left finger, the fourth or ring finger. Yeah, when we saw that image, I thought about it, but then I assumed it was just like what's the name? Marriage. Wedding ring. No. Fucking hell. How do I forget such a basic? Is it just wedding ring? Yeah, it's just wedding ring. Why the fuck am I so confused? I understood it was some sort of keepsake. When my father left Japan for London 16 years ago, I was 8 years old. But I remember that ring. You do? My father's possessions were sent to our family home in Japan after his death, but the ring wasn't among them. Obviously not, it was a key piece of evidence. We remained under lock and key in the stores at Scotland Yard to this day. After the autopsy, Genshin was summoned by the police to check for the presence of his ring. It wasn't on his hand, of course. Moreover, there were deep abrasions on his finger, but it has been pulled off. They arrested the man there and then, right before my eyes. How could they? I brought the ring along with me today. You... That is a very interesting design. Here it is, a bit dusty from years in the stores. Good gracious, yes, that is. I haven't seen that in 10 long years. And that was found inside the victim's stomach. Yes, I'm afraid so. You hesitate there, Professor Mikotoba. Should you read something into that? Well, it's just that thinking back now. I didn't actually witness the moment it was extracted from the victim's body. Really? At the precise moment, Dr. Wilson asked me to fetch him a new scalpel, you see. Dr. Gory, the removal of historic evidence from the stores requires my consent, does it not? Yeah, fuck you. However it came to be here, the court cannot deny that this is a crucial evidence for today's proceedings. Very well, you may submit it. A ring belonged to Genshin Asogi. Leaks during the claw grasping the gem looked sharp enough to cause a very nasty scratch. Okay, nothing immediately pops out. The fat claws are doing a good job of protecting the equally fat gemstone in the middle of the ring. Yes, if you're clumsy, it could give yourself a rather nasty cut, I should think. My fingers are bleeding, the claws really are sharp. Oh my, that was very quick clumsiness, Mr. Naruhodo, even for you. Who makes such a dangerous ring? You couldn't swallow it without doing yourself some serious internal damage. Stick Mochibum off about that sign would go down much better. What's going on? We'll never manage. Okay. Anything else? No. Not this sort of ring normally seen in Japan. They almost look like claw protecting that jewel. Must examine it careful. Okay. Present. Present. The court has heard that the ring was extracted from the victim's stomach, but you didn't actually see it being removed, did you, Professor Mikotoba? That is right, as I have said in my testimony before. At that moment, I was fetching a replacement scalpel that Dr. Wilson have requested. In other words, you can either confirm or deny whenever this ring is in fact really came from the victim's stomach or not. What are you suggesting, Counsel? That the ring was never in the victim's stomach to begin with. It's entirely feasible that Dr. Wilson fabricated detail about the autopsy. What are you suggesting that Dr. Wilson was in possession of the ring in advance, after it was somehow stolen from Mr. Asogi? And he produced it during procedure, pretending to have found it there and then, in the victim's stomach.
Objection!
Suppositions at best, what possible evidence do you have to support such a rash claim? The evidence right here. The autopsy report. It is explicit in that report, Counsel. Other than the ring, nothing unusual was noted internally, so I'm not sure how you intend to prove your point. You have already done for me, my lord. The lack of internal injury said it all. What? To swallow a ring of this size will require considerable effort and determination. And in addition to its size, there are sharp claws around the gemstones you contend with. My brother was a determined man, on the brink of death even more so, I'm sure. He would have stopped at nothing to ensure the evil killer was brought to justice. But if you have really swallowed that enormous ring, it is inconceivable that no trace of its passage down his throat would have remained and would have... Oh, sorry. Ooh, let me drink more water. It's inconceivable that no traces of its passage down his throat would have remained as internal trauma. No. And there you have arrived at this sticking point. That's precisely why I have my doubts about the findings myself 10 years ago. Why didn't you say something at the time? I did. I did. I still remember the conversation I had with Dr. Wilson in the laboratory that day. Look at this. Now, this is a very curious thing to find in a man's stomach, wouldn't you say? But isn't that rather peculiar, Dr. Wilson? What is that now, Mikotoba? Well, if he has swallowed the ring of that side with those sharp metal claws that he has, surely you expect to see damage to the throat and esophagus, torn mucous membrane at the very least. Dr. Mikotoba, may I remind you that I have vastly more experience than you? I'm terribly sorry. I can think of plenty of ways to explain why no injuries would be seen. No, let me say this. The victim would appear to have ingested the item as evidence to identify his assailant. Go ahead, write it down. I was right. Dr. Wilson deliberately fabricated the results of the autopsy to implicate my father. I'm disappointed, Counsel. That argument is nothing more than speculation. What? Dr. Wilson was a Britain leading authority of forensic science and autopsy work. There is no scientific base on which to doubt the man's expert opinion. Pardon the interruption, my lord, but damage to the mucous membranes of the throat is easily identified, even in living subjects. Using a device called an endoscope, recently demonstrated in practical use in France. I want one. The government can pay. I don't think so, and Dr. Gorry, rest assured that your removal of the evidence from the stars without permission will not go unpunished. We opened the dead to find the truth. I beg your pardon. But Mama, she chose to stitch her corpse up, with all her secrets inside. That is wrong. Dr. Gorry, it's looking as though she chose to walk a different path to her mother, to her mama. Good on you, girl. Yes, the ring. What about the ring? I just remembered something, an earlier incident. What incident? The one I recounted to you before, about a memory I have. Of Genshin Asugi saving my life. What? My father saved your life? It was 10 years ago on a foggy night. Genshin and I were walking down some back streets at a late hour. All of a sudden... Momika Pip, you're coming with us. Yeah, and I point out that because it's an entire black and white picture with a red dot in the middle of it. All our assailants were armed with pistols, their faces obscured by scars. Bang! The next thing I knew, there was silence all around. Genshin lay on the cobbled street. Blood was seeping from his left hand. He shielded me. It was on the ring finger on his left hand that he used to wear that ring. Are you saying... I've always believed those thugs were after me. But now, I'm starting to question if perhaps I wasn't the intended target after all. Wait, but... Genshin was arrested 2 days after that attack. And in that short interval, the decisive evidence needed to indicate him was miraculously found. You mean, the ring was stolen from him? You think that's what those thugs were after that night? Preposterous. Ooh. You pathetic coward. You expect me to believe that you weren't involved? What do you mean by that? It was you, wasn't it? You were the one who took it. You stole my father's ring. You set the whole thing up so you could paint him as a mass murderer and have him arrested. Kazuma, open your eyes. Point at the right person, my dude. You must know deep down. The truth can be completely obscure even when your judgment is only slightly clouded. But at the moment, you seem to be floundering through a dense fog. Is that why you are so insistent that I should be present to this trial to see you like this? Naruhodo. Kazuma. Well, this is a amusing spectacle. What a grandiose expression on your face, as if you were Lady Justice herself. It seems you thoroughly convinced yourself of this alleged fabrication of the autopsy reports. So much so that you're apparently blind to the blatant contradiction that will be born out of it. What? Though it's extremely hard to believe, let us imagine there was some misconduct during the autopsy. If that were the case, why would Asogi not have disputed the finding in his trial? Because he's a Japanese man of honor and blah blah blah, and he needed to protect it blah. Because he had too much justice in his heart. In that closed court hearing 10 years ago, the defendant never once denied the claims against him. Isn't that right, Lord Van Zix? Yes, that is indeed correct. Upon hearing the verdict of guilty, he merely closed his eyes, quietly accepting the judgment. Because his job was done and the professor was dead. And he was going to protect his fucking... How the hell did I forget his name? He was gonna protect Clint's honor even in death. The actions of a man who has accepted responsibility for his deeds and is resigned to his fate. But then... Oh my, that is very strange. If Mr. Asogi did nothing to oppose the charge against him, then... that would surely mean there was no fabricated evidence. An obviously conclusion at which you should have arrived many minutes ago, Prosecutor Asogi, sorry. Your twisted loyalty and clouded judgment are hampering your ability for logical thought. Genshin Asogi's silence at his hearing can only mean one thing. There was no fabrication of evidence during the autopsy of his final victim 10 years ago. But if the autopsy was above board, is it time to pull the rabbit? There'll be nothing to stop Lord Strongheart bringing this trial to an immediate conclusion. Point your sword at the right enemy. Thank you, Ryunosuke. If it wasn't for your frank words just now, this trial may very well have ended prematurely. Kazuma, what is this latest absurdity, Council? My lord, your reasoning is perfectly sound, but for one giant hole. I beg your pardon. You claim my father's silence was due to the fact that there was no fabricated evidence. But there is another possible explanation. You overlook the possibility that he have a reason for maintaining that silence. Silence that would lead him to be convicted and sent to his death? Because he liked you and wants to protect your image of your brother. Oh, that is a new angle. If the autopsy results were an invasion, there is no conceivable reason why the men wouldn't have protested.
Objection!
Why did your brother kill people with a fucking dog? Oh, those results were an invasion, alright, there is no question of that. Are you forgetting that 2 people with a connection to the autopsy have already been assassinated? If I forced the grievances I felt from my mind, I started to see you in a very different light. I think perhaps it's you who has been living in delusion these 10 years. Me? Kazuma-sama has created one last chance for us to be here, Mr. Naruhodo. If you can only show there was a reason for his father's silence in his trial, a reason why the man would have said nothing, even though he was innocent. Could it be part of some negotiation? Enough rhetoric. The court must be showed evidence. Proof that you have that could possibly explain Asogi's silent in course? You protected Von Zix? This is the defense answer to that question. Okay. Let me see the hint because I'm thinking. If Kazuma-sama father knew that the evidence used was fabricated, why would he have said nothing in the trial? If for me, I have prosecuted my innocence until I was blue in my face. So, sorry. If it were me, I would have protested my innocence until I was blue in my face. So, if you're right about the autopsy results, there must have been a strong reason for his silence. Well then, perhaps he was saying nothing in exchange for some sort of clemency? Ah, that could be it. My lord, the defense... Enough. Evidence. No. 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 Honor? No. No. Protecting Mikotoba? No. Irrelevant? Irrelevant? Relation with welfare substitute to London, the Empire of Japan. Is this how I accept my fittings for knowledge that I will never miss my homeland again, but I regret nothing about my chosen path. Let's try this.
Take that!
No. Honestly, there isn't that much evidence that could be it. No, no, of course not. I don't think so. It could be, but no. No, no, no. Unrelated, unrelated, we try. Unrelated, 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 we try. Unrelated, unrelated, we haven't tried. Honestly, there isn't that much. That dismissal notice? It's not gonna be Katana, it's not gonna be Honor. No, that's dumb. That's not evidence. Because he was already planning to run away. So...
Take that!
It's true then, because he already have arrangement beforehand. It's true that Genshi Asaki's silence during his trial result in his conviction. But that didn't actually lead to his execution. On the contrary, it led to his escape. An escape that was only possible because he had been sentenced to death. Although I find it hard to believe my father would have negotiated in that way, the defense is correct. A fake execution, falsification of a death certificate, and jailbreak inside the coffin. Clearly, such elaborate plan couldn't have been carried out by my father alone. He must have the help of a collaborator from the judiciary. I have here the dismissal notice of the chief warder who was working in the prison at the time. The notes read that an indication that the jailbreak was planning prior to the inmate incarceration. In other words, just swap water bottles. There was suggestions of some sort of negotiation between Mr. Asogi and the British government. in exchange for his silence in court, so we don't. He's silent in court, so we can, in a sense, Clint, because he's a British noble, and we can't have a noble being the serial killer. But Strongheart couldn't have that let go, and was in the cemetery to silence him. In exchange for his silence in court, he was given an assurance that he would be broken out of prison. Yes, with that sort of clandestine agreement in place, I can imagine he would kept very quiet. I would go further than that, in fact. I would say that the elaborate jailbreak of Mr. Asogi can be explained in no other way. Order. First fabricated evidence, now a jailbreak conspiracy. Of course, because it's all intimately linked. The prosecution wishes to summon the witness to the stand. Witness. People who can testify about the jailbreak that took place 10 years ago. Governor Kading and the poor chief warden of the prison. I will not allow this trial to turn into a farce. To summon the governor of prison after all these years. Oh, it wouldn't be any trouble, my lord. What? He is already fucking there! My dearest friend may appear a little rapid at times, but I can assure you he's extremely true. He warned both Barclay and the local prison earlier, asking Governor Kading and Mr. Virgin to attend to the Old Bailey as a matter of extremely urgencies. Mr. Sholmes did that. Are you fucking with me? Both men are, unless I'm mistaken, just right there. Sean has been playing the long way, just not get. Sean has this entire thing in the palm of his hand. Oh, this is amazing. Sean is like outside the courtroom with a full line of 12 people ready for each chapter of the fucking case. My lord, you must permit this trial to proceed as you declare at its outset. You promised that we would stop at nothing to uncover the whole truth behind these disturbing findings. You motherfuckers. Very well, bring in the witness. Make no mistake, I too would like nothing more than to lay this fucking business, you motherfuckers. Okay, this has to be my stop point. We are 3 minutes into my end time. And this case is going to go for like at least another hour or two. There is no way this is the final witness. There is going to... Sholmes is absolutely out of the door with another person. There is going to be more. We still have not going to the plotline that what the fuck is Iris. And she was preparing something also. We still haven't done the second pulling of the rabbit ear, which we are going to do at some point. There is so much to still go. And yeah, we are 2 minutes from endpoint, so we should end here. I want to keep going. I don't know if tomorrow is going to be the last one, but probably. I cannot imagine this is going to go for more than 3 hours. But we are gonna find out tomorrow. This case has been really fun. This case has been really good. I'm enjoying myself a lot. Okay, let's do the ending. As always, thank you very much for watching today's stream. If you're interested in watching more of my content live, I try to stream on Twitch every day. If you're interested in watching some of my old content, I try to archive every stream on my YouTube channel. And I'm failing at it. Once again, thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you will join me tomorrow for the conclusion of this fucking game. Probably, maybe, hopefully. I cannot imagine this. I cannot imagine this case is going to be much further. This has to be close to the end. Which is a shame. This is good. This is good. Anyway, bye.